20. Repercussion. Lavanya's POV. My head started to spin, and suddenly the letter G in English had become something I despised, as if I was trying to decipher some ancient coded language. What did he mean? G, my G, ugh. This isn't helping. No matter how much I tried to think it through, my brain refused to give me any answers. I felt frustrated and tried to focus on my work instead. As I worked, I glanced up at Ruhi a few times, but she seemed absorbed in her tasks. After the chilling tornado of an incident earlier, I didn't dare to disturb her. "Bye, Ruhi," I said, getting up from my chair after finishing my work. "Bye," she replied coldly. I knew it would take time for things to go back to normal. I went outside to get my two-wheeler from the parking area, but the weather wasn't in my favor. The rumble of thunder made me flinch, and I lost my grip on the bike's handle. The bike fell to the ground on its side with a loud thud. Oh no, shit! I struggled to lift it, pulling it slowly and steadily by the handle until I finally managed to get it upright, breathing heavily. I put on my helmet, pressed the start button, but to my dismay, the engine wouldn't start. What? After 15 minutes of struggling, I still couldn't get it to start. Hell no, not now, please. All the remaining energy drained from my body as I tried one last time to kickstart it, but that stubborn bike refused to budge. This bike is driving me crazy. I hate you, I whispered, glaring at it in frustration. I looked around for help, but everyone had already left, and Ruhi was gone without noticing me. I couldn't even spot Virat Seo's car in the parking lot. Only the security guards remained outside the building, so I approached one of them to ask for assistance. "Bhaiya, could you please help me kickstart my bike?" I asked. He nodded and followed me to the parking area. He tried for several minutes, but after a while, he gave up. "Madam, this bike isn't going to start. Only a mechanic can fix it. You should take a taxi. I'll park it here safely for you," he said, breathing heavily. I nodded weakly, feeling defeated. There's no other option. I guess the storm didn't just affect the three of us. It's also taken a toll on my bike. Just as the guard was about to move my bike, I heard a male voice from behind me. "Hi! Good evening, love." The word love was all I needed to identify him. What is he still doing here? And when will he stop calling me that? I turned around and saw him standing by his car in the parking lot. I didn't respond. I just stared at him for a moment before looking away, anywhere but at him. "Is there a problem?" he asked. "Good evening, sir." The guard greeted him from behind me, still holding onto my bike. Mr. Dawson tilted his head slightly, glancing at the guard behind me. "Isn't that yours, Miss Lavanya?" he asked, pointing to my bike. I just blinked. As if he cares. "Yes, sir, it wouldn't start, so Madam asked me to help, but it still hasn't worked. The engine is dead. It needs a mechanic. I'm parking it here for now," the guard replied on my behalf. I felt awkward. I didn't want him to know about my daily struggles. This bike is an embarrassment everywhere. "Wait," he said, pausing. "Bring that bike and put it in my car's trunk. I'll take it to the mechanic," he ordered the guard. "What?" "No," I blurted out before realizing how harsh it sounded. "I mean, no. Thank you, sir, but I'll handle it. I'll bring a mechanic here tomorrow," I added politely. "Do as I say," he commanded, ignoring my protest. The guard quickly moved my bike toward his car and shouted for another guard to help. I watched as they struggled to lift the bike into the car, clearly finding it a difficult task. How did the bike even fit in there? His car is huge. He opened the passenger door and stood there, holding it open like a gentleman. After a brief silence, he looked at me. "Are you coming, or do I have to lift you too?" he asked. I stared at him in shock. I am not sitting in his car again. I'll take a taxi. But you can't just leave your bike in his car and take a taxi. That would be rude, my inner voice reminded me. I sighed and got into the passenger seat. He closed the door and settled into the driver's seat. Put your seatbelt on, he ordered. I glanced at him from the corner of my eye, then silently followed his instruction. We drove out of the office campus, and the traffic was heavy as it was a busy workday with everyone heading home from their offices. Guide me to the mechanic's place. We'll show him your bike, he said, glancing at me as he drove. Left at the square, and I gave him directions and he drove with patience. Madam, this will take at least 3 or 4 days. One of the parts is completely damaged and we need to replace it. This company's spare parts are hard to find locally, so we'll have to order them from Kolkata, the mechanic said after inspecting my bike. 3-4 days? Arey bhaiya, please. Do it as soon as possible. I only have one bike and I need it every day, I pleaded. Oh, I thought you had your own car and a driver, Mr. Dawson commented, not looking at me as I stood beside him. What? No, I don't, I replied, feeling confused. Don't you have a driver, what's his name again? Oh yes, Virat Oberoi? He teased, furrowing his brows, and I jerked my head to the left to glare at him. This man is unbelievable. Is he calling Virat Sir my driver? Sir, he is not my driver. He's just a friend and my boss. He dropped me home that day. As a friend, I clarified. Yeah, whatever. That guy looks like a driver to me though, he chuckled, murmuring. Well, you're driving me home today. Does that mean you're my driver? I shot back, and his expression faltered. Silence. Yeah, my words definitely meant shut up. So, thank you. After a few minutes, we were back on the road and he was driving in silence. Why is he so awkwardly quiet? Lavanya, you really need to learn when to shut up. How could you just call your boss's boss a driver? My inner voice scolded me, making me feel guilty. I'm sorry, sir, I whispered. What? He seemed a bit charmed, glancing at me in confusion. I said, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have called you, that. Thank you for your help, I explained, and he just cocked his head slightly. After a few more minutes, he spoke again. I don't mind being a driver, love, as long as you're sitting in that seat. He gestured to the passenger seat where I was sitting. I hid my smile, looking out of the window. Theek, and I wouldn't mind dropping you at the office, then back home every day. I'd like the company while driving. It gets quite boring sitting alone in the car. Very, very boring actually, he added, glancing at me, and our eyes met. Oh, being alone isn't much fun in a foreign country. He must be feeling lonely here. Maybe that's why he asked you to have lunch with him the other day. Though the way he asked was rude, and he even suggested you invite him, didn't he? My inner voice made some reasonable points. Oh, that's bad. He must be missing his family. Poor American monster. Man. I felt a pang of sympathy for him, still lost in my thoughts as I stared at him. He cleared his throat, though his eyes remained on the road. Miss Lavanya, there's no doubt I look damn good, but I'm not sure if Indian girls are supposed to stare at a guy like that. He teased, and I blinked in realization. No, sorry. I was thinking about... I looked away. Me? He interrupted with a mischievous smile. No, about your family, actually, I said, my voice soft. His head jerked to the left when he heard the word family. My family? He asked, and I nodded. What are you thinking about my family? He asked again, eyes still focused on the road. I think you're missing your family, I said gently. He laughed, but his laugh didn't sound joyful. Why is he laughing? What? I asked, confused. I don't have a family, love, he said casually, and my heart sank. Oh, you mean you just live alone? Or you. Yeah, in my big mansion, all alone, with 10 or 12 servants, drivers, and other staff, of course, he said, chuckling darkly, almost as if mocking himself. So, they're your family now? I murmured, more to myself than to him. Kind of, but I don't miss them at all, he replied bluntly. Since when have you been living like that? After a pause, he answered, Since my father died. And what about your mother? I dared to ask, since he was answering without hesitation. She's happy with her new husband in San Diego. Oh, where do you live in California then? Well, where do you think, Miss Lavanya? Where is D. Dawson's main branch? San Francisco. Oh, of course. That was a stupid question, I muttered, rolling my eyes at my ignorance. After a few moments of silence, I hesitantly asked, And you don't like being alone? He glanced at me, and I blinked, suddenly unsure of myself. You shouldn't have asked that, foolish girl. Watch your limits. My inner voice scolded me. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked such a personal question. I apologized, nervously fidgeting with my hands. Yes, love, he replied. I don't like being alone, but I have no choice, do I? He glanced at me again. My parents separated when I was just a teenager. My father got custody and my mom moved to San Diego with her husband. I visit her sometimes, once or twice a year. I spent my graduation alone because my father was always busy with work. His eyes remained fixed on the road, but I could tell his mind was elsewhere, lost in memories. One night, he died in his office, working late. He never came back home, and then I took his place. I worked just like he did, and my office is actually my first home. He added with a weak smile. But unlike him, I don't want to die alone in my office room. His voice cracked slightly and my heart tightened. I was too shocked to say anything in response. After a long sigh, he looked back at me. We're home, love, he said in a husky tone. I blinked, not immediately grasping what he meant. What? Oh. Then I realized the car had stopped and we were already in front of my apartment building. The ache I felt for him took me by surprise. Why? Why am I sad for him? I kept looking at my hands resting on my lap, still blinking in confusion. Hey, are you okay? I heard him ask, his voice filled with concern. I don't know. I'm sorry, I said without thinking. Is that your favorite sentence? Why do you keep repeating it? He chuckled. Because your story broke my heart and now I'm feeling sorry for being rude to you earlier. I don't know, was all I could say. What? He frowned, clearly puzzled. I should go home. Thank you again for your help, sir, I said, looking at him. Well, aren't you going to invite me for a coffee? He asked, his tone playful. Oh, my manners. Yeah, I would have, but my parents aren't home. I know that, love. You've already mentioned it. He smirked. Maybe that's why I asked. Oh, here comes the flirty American monster. He doesn't have any idea about Indian society, does he? That's not a very good idea, sir. Because I have neighbors, and it would be a big issue if anyone finds out I invited a man over at this hour while my parents aren't home. It'll be in tomorrow's newspapers. I warned him, and he burst out laughing. He's laughing? Huh? Yeah, he's laughing. Can't believe it. He's laughing. He is? Oh, finally he's laughing. That's a good scene to witness, isn't it? I was unaware that I was staring at him, and he cleared his throat once he stopped laughing. Your Indian neighbors are incredible, I must say, he said seriously before pausing. Like your incredible India. And just like that, He started laughing again, and I joined in, enjoying his funny comment as I finally got the joke about the Indian tourism ads. Oh, America's not such a perfect country either, I said, still laughing. Well, I agree, he said, and we laughed again, clutching our stomachs. After about 10 minutes of laughing and poking fun at each other's countries, we finally got out of the car. Mr. Dawson, I called, and he turned to look at me smiling. You want to have a cup of coffee? I'm making it, I asked politely. His expression shifted to one of surprise. After a few seconds, he responded, Well, I don't mind. I'm quite used to my name being in the newspapers every day. And we laughed again. Suddenly, it started pouring heavily, so we dashed into the building, rushing up the stairs to my apartment. When I reached into my purse to grab my keys, I realized they weren't there. Where are my keys? Then it hit me, and my eyes widened in horror. Oh my God, no! I covered half my face with my palms. You stupid girl! How could you do something like this? My inner voice scolded me. What happened? Mr. Dawson asked, his gaze fixed on me. Keys, I blurted out. What? He sounded just as shocked as I felt.
Jackie's POV, Mr. Dawson? I heard her call my name, sweet as ever, while we were still laughing. I turned my attention back to her. You want to have a cup of coffee? I'm making it, she asked politely, and it caught me off guard. Did she just invite me for coffee? Oh, I guess, yes. Controlling my excitement, I replied casually, Well, I don't mind. I'm quite used to my name being in the newspapers every day. That made her laugh again, and I joined her. The heavy rainfall had us rushing toward her apartment. I waited as she fumbled to unlock the door, standing behind her while she dug through her bag. Suddenly, her expression shifted to one of sheer horror, as if she'd just seen a ghost. Her eyes widened, and her palms covered half of her face. What happened? I asked, confused by her reaction. Kiss, she blurted out. What? I was taken aback again. Not kiss, you dirty-minded fool. She meant keys. My inner voice corrected me. Oh yeah, what about them? I asked, mentally shutting down my inappropriate thoughts. She turned to look at me as if she'd just accidentally murdered someone. What? I asked again. I gave the bike key to the mechanic. Of course you did. He needs it. So, I still didn't fully understand. That keychain had other keys too, she continued. Uh-oh. And I spoke, finally catching on. The keychain also had the key to your apartment. I finished her sentence, reading her mind and expression. Her face said it all. She is unfreaking believable. You're impossible, Miss Lavanya. I shook my head and looked straight into her shocked eyes. She lowered her head, covering her face with her palms. We walked down the stairs and stood in the parking area of the building. Her expression was tense and embarrassed, and she wasn't looking at me. Instead, her eyes were fixed on the floor. I was desperately trying to hide my smile and not laugh at her predicament, but I couldn't hold it in. My mind was already laughing hysterically, and then, before I knew it, I burst into laughter. The sound echoed against the building walls, and she stood there like a statue, watching me. I can't believe this, I laughed again. You seriously gave your apartment key to the mechanic? How? I struggled to control my laughter. My parents have the other key, she explained, rolling her eyes in annoyance. I attached the duplicate apartment key to the bike's keychain so I wouldn't lose it, and I forgot about it when I handed the keychain to him. Oh God, this is the worst day of my life. And once again, I burst out laughing like a maniac, clutching my stomach as the muscles there started to ache. She just looked at me and smiled, shaking her head. Oh gosh, I need to stop now. Okay, I said, finally managing to control my laughter. What now? You can't get into your apartment tonight? She buried her face in her right palm, clearly without an answer. I exhaled deeply and offered her an out. Come on, my duplex has plenty of room. She looked at me nervously. Unless you want your name to make headlines tomorrow, I teased. Miss Lavanya gave her apartment key to a mechanic, stood in the rain all night with an empty stomach, and then fainted. We both laughed again. Thank God. She's finally laughing. I guess it's the best day of my life. I sighed with satisfaction.